Hello again. This museum is Rahmi Koç Museum in Istanbul, Turkey. One of the first major museums dedicated to the history of transport, industry and communications, founded by a businessman, Rahmi Koç, in 1994. It's located on the historical Golden Triangle in Istanbul, and the museum is spread across several beautiful restored industrial buildings, including an old anchor foundry and dockyard. The first aircraft is a B-24 wreckage, which is 4124311. It was a Second World War bomber of the US Army Air Force, but the crew named it Hardly Harmons. The aircraft took part in one of the most daring raids of the Second World War. Built in San Diego in December 1942, it quickly joined the combat operations with the 98th Bomber Group, known as the Piranhas. The aircraft was flown by a Lieutenant Hardy, who the aircraft was named after, and typical nose art of bomber crews. On the 1st of August 1943, it took off on the most dangerous bomber mission of the war, operated tidal wave. The target was a massive oil refinery at Poznań in Romania, which supplied much of the fuel for the Nazis. The aircraft was hit by anti-aircraft fire, killing the bombardier instantly, and several damages to the aircraft were made, including one of the engines. Despite the damage, the crew managed to release the bombs on the target and escape the area. The aircraft was badly damaged, losing oil and fuel, and the pilot attempted to fly towards the Turkish coast, but one by one the engines failed. Finally, the bomber crashed near Antalya in Turkey. 3 of the crew members were killed, including the pilot, co-pilot and bombardier were killed. The 7 others survived the crash and managed to swim ashore. In 1995, the cockpit and front section of the aircraft recovered from the ocean. It's a fantastic tribute to the guys who perished. The next aircraft is the F-104S, Italian-built version of the F-104 Starfighter. It had previously been MM6895 of the Italian Air Force, made its first flight in 1954, and then transferred to the Turkish Air Force and given a serial number of 756895. It was transferred in 1976 to the Turkish Air Force and withdrawn in the 90s. A total of 2,578 aircraft were built worldwide. They were licensed in Europe by Messerschmitt, Fiat and Fokker. It was a famous fast fighter, extremely high speed, Mach 2 plus, very small thin wings, nicknamed the Missile with a man in it. The aeroplane earned a continental reputation, especially in Europe, notably Germany, for the crashes. But it wasn't just a bad plane, it was a mix of design, roles and contacts in Germany. Germany operated 900 104s and 270 crashed, killing 110 pilots, leading to the name the Widowmaker. There are 6 of these airworthy in the United States and 1 being airworthy to flight in Norway at the moment. The next aircraft is a nose only of a NF5A 3041, a licensed built version of the American F-45A Freedom Fighter, given a Dutch serial number N304, made by the Fokker-built aircraft for the Netherlands Air Force. This was a part of the NFA fleet, which was delivered in the late 60s, early 70s, and was one of the F-05's was most successful light fighter ever built, affordable and used all over the world. In the late 50s, Northrop Corporation designed a cheap fighter which would be built easy and reliable to fly. It flew in Vietnam, and loads flew widely with the Republic of Vietnam Air Force. Their five fought in many conflicts around the world, including the Middle Eastern, African, Latin American, Iraq-Iranian War. Unlike their F-104, their F-5 did achieve aerial victory in several wars. The total productions of all variants was 2,815 aircraft, of which there is 550 still airworthy today. The next aircraft is the Dornier 27-10041, ex-Turkish Air Force. It was a rugged aircraft built after the Second World War by Dornier in the 50s. It had a stalled performance and could take off in just 200 meters. It was powered by a locomotive piston engine GO 480. It had seats up to 4 people, including the pilot. 332 were built, and there are still about 30 of these aircraft flying worldwide. And me say, please like and subscribe. It means a lot for this small little channel. Have a good. This aircraft is the Champ Subtabria. It was a small, nimble built aircraft to loop and roll and land almost on any airstrip. A true tailwheel classic. This one has a serial of 10133. First flight was 1964, and this is an ex-Turkish Army light aviation single engine 2-seater aircraft. It was developed in the 60s, and there was 3,555 made, and there's still a hell of a lot flying around the world today. The next aircraft is a legendary AH-1 Cobra, made by Bell, the answer to a red-edging machine. This has a serial 10655. Born during the chaos of the Vietnam War, the Cobra wasn't just any helicopter. It was the world's first multi-built attack helicopter. Before the Cobra, there'd been armed helicopters simply modified like Hueys, but they were slow, bulky and vulnerable. The Cobra changed everything. It was a legend. Lives saved today by this aeroplane. And advanced versions like the Super Cobra and Viper, fast, smarter and more lethal than ever. About 2,800 of these helicopters were produced overall. Sorry about that. And there were still about 600 Cobras flying worldwide. An amazing attack helicopter. The next aircraft is a Pit Special GAXNZ, but this is a static replica painted up in the Rothmans aerobatic team, Sigmet manufacturer, and has a BAPC number 134, but never flew, just a static replica. This is the BAC Jet Provis Golf Bravo Whiskey Delta Romeo XM367, or the Royal Air Force. The BAC Jet Provis one of Britain's most important training aircraft of its time. It trained thousands of RAF pilots before they moved to fighters. The first flight was in 1954. It replaced the Piston Provost, and after it retired, it was replaced by Hawk. It was used by the RAF from the 50s to the 90s. There was 582 built, and there is about 40 still airworthy in private warbird hands in the UK and elsewhere in the world. The next aircraft they have is the Vampire, this one being a FB6 Golf Mike Kilo Victor India. It was one of the first operational jet fighter aircraft for the RAF. The twin boom tail design was very distinctive, powered by a single de Havilland Goblin jet engine, used as a fighter and later a trainer. The T-11 and Mark 6 entered service in 1946, replacing piston engines very quickly. This one is being an ex-Swiss Air Force one. It served with 30 Air Forces worldwide, and 3,552 of them were made, and there's still about 35 of them airworthy around the world today. The next aircraft is Tango Charlie Alpha Lima India, a C-47A. A grand total of 11,000 odd C-47s and DC-3s were delivered, the first flight being in 1935. And remarkably, there is still about 450 of these regularly flying around the world today. This had a construction number of 12830. It was built in 1944 and served with the US Air Force as 4292970. It then went to several American civil registrations before it received in Turkey. After the military and civil, it was required as a pleasure flight aircraft in Turkey and then retired to the museum. The next aircraft is the Beach Mentor. It was designed as a training aircraft, this one being TC-CCD ex Turkish Air Force OK-12 T-34A. The Mentor was developed from the Beach Bonanza, which I didn't realise. First flew in the 2nd of March 1948 from Wichita, Kansas, and first production flight was in 53. Well over 300 are still airworthy, and there was 853 built. The next aircraft is an unusual one. Tango Charlie Lima Echo Yankee, a MMB HFB 320 Hansajet business jet. It was made for the German business jet, first produced in 1960s and early 70s by a consortium. The forward swept wing was very unusual for a jet of its area. It could take 6 to 8 passengers, and the market was executive business jet it was designed for, but a lot served in the Luftwaffe, and they were extremely rare aircraft. Only 47 of them were made. None are airworthy today, but there is about 15 in museums or private collections. The next one is TC UAP, a Benson autogyro, developed in the 50s by Igor Benson in the United States, designed with simple, affordable helicopter for the hobbyists and sport pilot. The first home-built autogyro available for the general public population. in the 60s and 80s, before ultralights and light helicopters came more common. 944 have been built, and there's still about 150 of them airworthy. The last one being the Ares S2R Thrush. It was an agricultural built single engined aircraft for crops, spraying, dusting and other utility roles. It was rugged, purpose built for working environments such as farm, plantations and rural airfield. The prototype of this first flew in 1974, and there was 1,274 made up to the certain date now, and there's still 450 flying and still being made today under the name of Thrush. Hope you like this latest video, and I wish you a good day and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.